Welcome to another video from Demystifying Proposals, Making Proposals Make Sense. In this video, we're going to talk about how to make past performances compelling. Your company may have the experience, but you have to prove it. In the following slides, we'll talk about the basics. So what do we mean when we say compelling? What makes something compelling? Well, the government looks for strengths, weaknesses, and deficiency. Strengths and weaknesses can also be termed significant strengths or significant weaknesses. The point of the things you do to make a proposal compelling is to emphasize what you believe are your strengths and significant strengths. Ways to make a proposal compelling include, first and foremost, you got to have a compliant proposal. The evaluators won't even bother to look at what you think are your strengths if they don't see your proposal as compliant. Second, it's important to have a well-written and formatted proposal. The evaluators will judge how your company is likely to perform the work by how the proposal reads and looks. Although we always say proposals are scored and not read, that doesn't mean you can not have a well-written proposal, because like I said, it's an example of how the work might be performed from the evaluator's perspective. Next, having strong win themes that come through the reading of the proposal, often shown through call-out boxes. And finally, having strong proof points, quantifiable and qualitative information that you can point to say you've done this work before and you've done it well. To make your past performances compelling, they should be tailored. Your company likely has a library of past performances from other proposals, but no two proposals are the same. So make sure the past performance citations are updated to meet the requirements for this proposal. In this section, we're going to have a little reminder of the government evaluation process. So the government will review the proposal for compliance based on the proposal instructions, section L, and non-compliance will generally kick a proposal out of any further review. They won't even bother to read the proposal if it's not compliant. Then they'll divide the proposal between a technical evaluation panel and a cost evaluation team. So that the technical volumes and usually past performance as part of that will go to the technical evaluation panel. The TEP reviews compliant proposals against the evaluation criteria, usually section M. Prior to the kickoff, the TEP chair will create the technical evaluation score sheet that the TEP will use to document their assessment of the proposal. The score sheet is the SAO requirements, the statement of work requirements or the PWS requirements, the proposal instructions, and the evaluation criteria. The contracting officer will use the TEPS evaluation as the basis for the source selection document that they use to recommend who should be given the work. The cost evaluation panel reviews the cost proposal for cost realism, for risks, and for assumptions. The section M, or the evaluation criteria, may have an evaluation scheme like excellent, very good, good, poor, weak, for example. But ultimately, the TEP uses strengths, weaknesses, and deficiencies when they do their scoring. This leads to comparative scoring. Somebody's proposal had 3 significant strengths, 2 strengths, 3 weaknesses, and Y's proposal had 2 significant strengths and 4 regular strengths and 2 weaknesses. So they can compare X and Y's proposals based on significant strengths, weaknesses, and hopefully not significant weaknesses and deficiencies. The proposal's goal is to have as many significant strengths as possible and as few weaknesses as possible. Strengths come from win themes, strengths come from features and benefits, strengths from clear structured approaches, strengths come from proof points. I've heard government evaluators say they don't care about win themes and they don't care about features and benefits, but where they do care about it is when it comes to what they call strengths. So hopefully your win themes translate into strengths when they come to do their evaluation. Hopefully your features and benefits translate into strengths. Hopefully your approach translates into strengths. So you want to make sure that those things all come through easily for the evaluator so that they can score you as having strengths or significant strengths. Weaknesses come from unsubstantiated claims, unclear solutions, undefined approaches, all of those things that hopefully you're trying to avoid. But you need to make sure that as you're reviewing, as you're thinking about your proposal, that you don't have any unsubstantiated claims and that your solution is clear and that your approaches are defined. Deficiencies can kill a proposal's chances for an award altogether. A deficiency is even more significant than a weakness. So here are the definitions of strengths, weaknesses, and deficiencies straight from the government. A strength is an aspect of an offer's proposal that has merit or exceeds specified performance or capability requirements in a way that will be advantageous to the government during contract performance. So all the things that you put in your proposal that differentiate you from your competitors, that show the government that you know what you're doing, those are all strengths. Weakness means a flaw in the proposal that increases the risk of unsuccessful contract performance. Government is all about risks, right? They're spending money to try and get something done. And if they think that you can't deliver on what they're asking you to do, they're going to score that as a risk. They're going to score that as a weakness. And the more weaknesses you have, the more likelihood that you will not be awarded the work. A deficiency, as I said, is more significant than a weakness. It's a material failure of a proposal to meet a government requirement or a combination of significant weaknesses in a proposal that increases the risk of unsuccessful contract performance to an unacceptable level. So you may have a deficiency that is just something that you did wrong in the proposal. Maybe not completely compliant, non-compliant, but it shows a significant weakness. Or you have so many significant weaknesses that the government just doesn't believe that your company can do the work and be successful. The first step always is compliance. So where will you find the requirements for the past performance volume? Section L, the proposal instructions may include where and how you should include your past performance. Is it its own volume? Is it its own section of the technical approach? Is it part of management? You need to look at the proposal instructions to understand how past performance is being included. Most of the time it's included. Actually, sometimes it's not, which is a whole different thing. But if it is included, Section L will tell you where it goes. Section M, or the evaluation criteria, will include the criteria for evaluating past performance. Usually it's on a scale of relevance. Sometimes it's on a scale of confidence. So highly relevant, relevant, somewhat relevant, or not relevant. Or if it's on a confidence scale, they're asking you to prove that you have that kind of work and give the government confidence that you can do the work going forward. And then section C, it's important to make sure that you map your past performance citations to the statement of work or the performance work statement. That's what makes them compelling. So one of the things that you have to ask yourself is, do your past performances meet the requirements? Most of the time, past performances are required to be the same size, scope, and complexity. Size is usually characterized by the contract value, but that means that you have to be sure that you understand what the value of the work for this particular RFP is so that you can show that your past performances are similar in size. Scope means that you need to show how the work in your past performances is similar to the work being asked for in this particular statement of work or performance work statement. You need to explain how those two things are aligned. Complexity can be things like, are there multiple teams? Were there tight deadlines? The statement of work or the performance work statement can help you figure out what complexity is for this particular opportunity. And then you can try and figure out how to show that in your past performances that you've done those same kinds of complexities. The value and the contract type also can be reflective of complexity. So a note here about firm fixed price. If you're not confident that you understand the complexity and the procurement is a firm fixed price procurement, then recognize that you're taking on all of the risk on your company. And then consider asking the government to change the contract type to time and materials or cost plus, where the resources and the effort can be adjusted more easily with less risk. So if it's a firm fixed price contract, you need to make sure that you really understand all the questions related to complexity that are defined in the statement of work or the performance work statement. If you don't, if that's not well mapped out in the information, then ask the government questions. And if it's not possible to define the the details of the work, if the work is in relation to a new law or something like that, then recommend to the government that maybe they change their contract type. But you better be really confident and be able to show in your questions why firm fixed price is not the right way to go and why time and materials or cost plus might make more sense. Okay, so now you figured out that your past performances are the same size, scope, and complexity, and you figured out how to map your past performances to be compliant. What else do you need to think about? Remember, don't use the past performance from another proposal without verifying and updating the information. Your contract values change all the time. Make sure that you use the most recent value, whether you get that from contracts or FPDS or the program manager or whoever. Make sure that your contract values are updated. The contract officials also change periodically. Be sure that the contract information that you're providing is current for those contract professionals. If you're using a past performance from a partner, verify, verify, verify their information from a third party source. Trust, but verify. For that matter, verify your own company's information through that same third party source, which may be FPDS or some other source. If you have something available, GovWin is also another reasonable source. This is especially important for larger and strategic bids, which are going to get more scrutiny both internally and from the evaluation teams on the government side. Never use a past performance without talking to the program manager or the project manager for that past performance. There may be something going on that you don't know about. So you need to make sure that that you are informed about anything as it relates to that past performance. So, for example, be sure your past performance and that of any partner will get a good rating from the customer. Because if a past performance questionnaire or CPARS is not required to support your past performance citations, the evaluators may still ask their fellow government officials for their opinion about your company's performance. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to talk govy to govy. And, even if you're not including, like I said, a past performance questionnaire for that particular project, or you don't have to include the CPARS for that particular project to prove that the work has been done well, don't assume that the govies aren't going to talk to the govies because they do that. So be aware that and make sure that your past performances are going to get a good rating from the customer. On this slide, we break down a little bit more about what that complexity thing means. That's the hardest thing to figure out when it comes to size, scope, and complexity, and as it relates to past performance. So what the government means by complexity and the requirement to explain the past performance's size, scope, and complexity is an open question. Nobody really knows how the government defines complexity unless maybe they happen to provide it for you in the RFP. Most of the time they don't. So it could mean challenges and how they were overcome, but never use a challenge example that you can't make into a positive. Even better if it leads to a discriminator for your company. So if you had a problem, you solved that problem, and the way that you solved that problem is unique to your company, ooh, that's good stuff. Okay. It could mean having to deal with other contractors in a multi-contractor environment, perhaps having to have an integrated schedule with the other contractors. If you know the work being procured means having to work with other contractors, you might be able to describe both overcoming challenges and working in a multi-contractor environment in one sentence or a paragraph, right? Do you want to be able to use that if that's something that's going to be applicable to this particular program? Complexity also could mean starting the work before all the requirements have been fully defined. That's for a new program, especially related to new regulations or laws. Again, that's another place where if the contract type is firm fixed price and the requirements haven't been fully defined, you might ask the government to change it from a full firm fixed price. Discussion for another day. It also could mean risks related to an aggressive schedule or known unknowns. So sometimes the work has to be done in a very short period of time. Sometimes that's related to the laws or the regulations. So, and if you're on an aggressive schedule and it's a multi-contractor environment and there are challenges or known unknowns, then again, that's a good way to define complexity. And if you have a past performance that has those things, you can use that and talk about that as it regards to complexity in your past performance. In this section, I'm going to talk about explicitly mapping your past performance to the statement of work to show even more how those past performances prove that you can do the kind of work that is being required for this particular RFP. So we just talked about complexity. Mapping to the statement of work, mapping your past performances to the current statement of work is a way to show that the scope applies, right? So you want to provide a summary that speaks to the RFP statement of work and the complexity of the work to be done at a high level. And then when asked to show how this past performance is relevant, use the RFP statement of work, the tasks, as your outline for this past performance, for your past performances. For example, statement of work task 1 is usually program management. And so the first section of your past performance should talk about statement task 1, how you manage the project or the program. And hopefully some, kudos for how you've managed the project can be in that section. And then hopefully the statement of work for the past performance is similar enough that you can do this for the rest of the write-up using the RFP's statement of work as your guide or your outline. If you can't map to all of the tasks in the statement of work or the performance work statement, map to as many as you can for each past performance and make sure that your past performances overall cover all of the tasks of the statement of work. So maybe one covers task 1, 3, and 4, one covers 2, 3, and 4, one covers 1 and 5, and that way you've covered all 5 of the statement of work tasks across your past performance and show that all of them are a similar scope, but also that you have experience with all of the tasks that you're being asked to perform for this particular RFP. Don't make it hard for the evaluators to see how the past performance, the scope, and the scope of work are similar, right? Make it easy for them. The whole goal of proposals should be to make it as easy as possible for the evaluators to understand how your proposal shows that you know how to do this work, you have a strong approach. Just make it really easy for them to figure it out. And as a last step, don't forget the basics. As with all other parts of the proposal, make sure the past performances are formatted the same and edited. Make your date formats the same. You can do May 2004, or you can do 05, 2004. It doesn't make any difference. Just make them all the same. Pick one style and make all the past performance citations the same. Also, make a note of whether you're using an em dash or a hyphen between dates. Again, anything is fine. You just want to make everything look consistent, make them look the same. Spell out acronyms on first use, just as in the body of the proposal. Even if your past performance is part of your technical approach, assume that the evaluators will read the citations separate. And so it's just a good idea to start spell out the acronyms for the past performance citations. However, you can assume that they'll read that whole section as one thing, so you don't have to do it for each of the past performances. Have the past performance citations edited to make sure they're clear and concise. Don't use text speak unless you're sure the evaluators will understand it. Don't assume that the evaluators have a lot of technical knowledge. Remember, there's people who are being pulled from, just like your writers, are being pulled from their day to day jobs to do the evaluation. Make it easy for them to understand how it's related to what they're asking you for, and assume that at least some of them are not technical. They're not going to necessarily understand a lot of tech speak. So make sure that you make it as clear as possible. Clear, concise is always a good way to go. And then run spell check. It's just an easy thing to do. It's often forgotten, but it can save your behind if you're not if you need it. So make sure to run spell check as a last thing when you're formatting and editing. Thank you for listening from Demystifying Proposals. We hope you learned something from this video, and if you did, please hit that thumbs up to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click on the bell to be notified of future videos. If you'd like, leave a comment. Thanks, and have a great day.